Call the meeting to order. Are there any public delegations?
Nope.
No, okay. Go to minutes, review of the minutes submitted from the March 2021 meeting.
Can I interject something here? And I think this should become a permanent part of these agendas. We need to have an item for seating of alternates because we often don't have a member. Obviously, if we have a full complement of full members, it's just skipped over. But if we don't, we need to seat somebody prior to like minutes and approving things. I think this should be a permanent part of our agenda.
Yeah,
that's true because we.
So it's other organizations.
Exactly. We should put that before public delegations. Yeah.
Okay. Seat alternates. Okay. Do you want it added to this agenda or do you just want to do it in the future?
Let's do it in the future.
Okay.
Actually, it could be made a permanent part of the agenda, whether you have to seat them or not.
Yeah, that's
Just
what
put
I'm
it in
saying.
there.
That's what I'm
Not
saying.
needed.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
But
That way it won't get forgotten.
But for tonight, Ron, will you be the this one
Yeah,
person?
I'll do it.
seat? Okay, good. Harvey, you'll have to pay attention without.
We'll listen. I'll listen.
No, you
So
can.
we need a motion though to do this?
Yeah, I'll move to seat Ron in favor of Mark.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go, okay. Well, no, I guess that was a very good idea. Review the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes? Fran, I have one small typo change.
Okay.
Under.
Where is that? What page?
Yeah, page 2, under old business, paragraph B,
Okay.
the last line, I stated, I'll quote, Carlson stated, there are a lot of pitch pines at Darrell Pond. That should be stated. Carlson stated there are pitch pines. Whether it's a lot, I don't know because I haven't counted them. And then
There are pitch pines at Darrow Pond. That's it.
yes,
Okay.
there are just pitch pines at Darrell Pond. That's the
Okay.
problem.
Yeah, I've only seen one, but that doesn't mean there aren't others.
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
I'll move that we accept the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Second. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Let me get that out of the way. New business. By the way, it's kind of tough to put, I found it was tough to put together the agenda with the kind of meetings we have on this TV. It wasn't easy. Anyway, updates to open space plan list.
Wait a minute.
Wait, new business.
Review of
You wanted the
Trail.
Goodwin Trail up front.
Say that again?
Review of Goodwin Trail activities is first.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. That's, yes.
Okay.
Well, the main activity is Harvey and I met, and Harvey has agreed to get involved in maintaining the trail. The ball's in my court to get us all together to get working on it. Aside from that, it's getting very heavy use. And it's simply a going concern. That will, I guess, bring you up to date on the. Oh, yes, no, a good thing. I got a call last night. Dave Putnam directed somebody to give me a call. A Boy Scout troop, several leaders, 2 boys. Could they use the backpacking campsite for this weekend? And I thought, my gosh, absolutely. It was just wonderful to have that kind of activity out there. Anyway, hopefully that's a measure of things to come.
Is that the way it's going to be, that they have to ask for permission to use it? Is that a set procedure?
Yeah, as we start, what's happening though, remember, Parks and Rec is going to take over this use of the 100 acres. So there'll be a scheme, so that Dave Putnam's office could take care of it. Right now, in fact, the Parks and Rec does not have permission yet to work the grounds.
Yeah, do you know when that's gonna happen? Is the
It depends on the
selectmen-
board, that's the Board of Selectmen.
And it hasn't been scheduled to vote or anything?
I don't have any, I have heard nothing,
Okay,
other than the comment that they don't have permission yet.
okay. Yeah, it's been pending for,
Yeah, I have to comment, my daughter here is here, and she's beautiful, but.
Just wanted to make sure that he got on, okay?
very good for you.
All right, all right.
Okay, honey.
Love you, bye.
Love you. Okay. Anyway, that's where the Goodwin Trail sits. Everything's
Okay.
going well. So now we can move into all business update to open space, plan list, East Lyme land trust purchases. Well, I'll address the land trust purchases because I can now. We have 2 purchases underway. We're going to close shortly on both of them. The first one will be 300 acres in the northeast part of town, referred to as the Katz property. It's quite an interesting parcel. That was slated to be a golf course at one point in time, 30, 40 years ago. It has the headwaters of the Cranberry Meadow Brook on it. It has wetlands on it. And I never thought I'd say another good thing is it has the power lines going through it. Well, that turns out to be a marvelous way for wildlife to go from the Katz property to the Neantic State Forest, which is about a half mile away. And that's a real connectivity path. Second thing that turns out is that right away is a terrific place for birds. Well, anyway, I never thought I'd be talking up right away.
What's the acreage on that, Art?
300,
Okay.
which is, by the way, that's a big piece of property when you walk around it.
Yeah.
It's been logged, but there's still substantial log forest left. We have a very good forest report, not as thorough as the one we had done for the Darrell Pond property, but we will have a thorough one done for it. The second piece of property, I can speak openly now, is the Hathaway property. We are going to close on that in about less than a month, I believe. That's a very interesting financial arrangement. We have a private investor who's willing to close the deal on it so that we can get this thing in our hands, and then we'll continue to raise funds and pay off the private investor. One of the things that happened, we got blindsided by the DEEP. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Let me back up. This year, there were apparently 42 applications for dollars. And I believe we were number 1 or in the very close top. They refused to tell us whether we were 1, 2, or 3. I don't care, I'm claiming number 1, but we had a very good proposal and it was a good piece of property. Now, for years, perhaps 5 or 6 or 10 years, I'm not sure, the deal had been the leading projects will get up to 60% of the market value. The market value on this was 1.6 million. We put in $1 million, and that's what we would have rightly expected. Well, about 3 months ago, they changed the rules. Apparently because they had more applicants than they wanted, or they ever had, not wanted, never had. The maximum dollars anybody could get, the best could get, would be $400,000. Well, we got $400,000, which puts us immediately $600,000 behind the goal that we knew we were going to get. So we're busy scrambling, looking around to be able to fill this gap. And I'm putting together a package that highlights the attributes of this thing. We will be making, and this is the land trust doing this. The land trust will put this package together, and then they will bring that package around to all the boards and commissions in town. There'll be a public relations effort so that we can close this gap. Um, I'm quite sure we can do it. I can tell you, I said this before, thank goodness we did all that good work on the open space plan for the last 10 years, because that's what the basis, that's the basis for everything. Just a few highlights of what this property means. Once we close the deal on this thing, we're going to have a forest block of about 9,000 acres. We're going to have protected almost all of the open space in the Patagonia watershed north of the well number 5, which is south of Lake Patagonia. One thing that's actually, I think, in our favor, they're having water questions with that well number 5 in Patagonia. They may have to drill and tap another one. Well, we now have the land where we can drill and tap that. And we're all very sure that we can pull this thing off. So we have, anyway, you will be hearing more about this. Let's see. So I think that'll bring you up to date on, also other things. When we looked at the rest of the town, this is once again the land trust speaking, there aren't any bigger parcels of this quality anymore. We're kind of there, believe it or not. And the last thing I want to close with is what has turned out to be one of the best pieces of kind of scientific measurement that we've been using has been those 8 attributes of the open space. That really allows the same, scale to be put on the table, and you can rate every piece of land against those 8, which are all kind of nuts and bolts issues. That brings you up to date on those 2 issues.
Anything new with the open space plan, or is that just?
Well, no, it's that the open space plan is updated and it's cranked into the POCD.
So it's done.
Yes, it's done. Yes.
What's the status of the POCD?
Pardon me?
Is the POCD all signed off on too?
Yes, yes, yes. What button do I push to increase the volume here? Oh yeah, volume.
You have a speaker, right?
Is that F6? Oh no, speaker. Yeah. Oh, it's already at the top. I'll be turning up my hearing aid. That's okay. Okay, Penny, you're next on sustainability.
Yeah, as of an hour ago, the pollinator pathway of East Lyme program went live on sustainable, and I did send email. I don't know whether anybody got a chance to see it, so people could see the connection. It was the notice that I got that said your program, although it's not mine. It's Marjorie Meekoff's and her group.
Is that the link you sent us?
Yes, that's the link I sent.
I wasn't going to click it till I asked you.
I knew what it was. Yeah, I just wanted you to see it. Donate if you want to. You don't have to, but that's the next sustainable Connecticut crowdfunding thing. They're asking for 6,000. So if they get 6,000, it'll be matched. So they're a little bit lower scale monies than some other programs, but I'm very impressed with their willingness to do a lot of small projects, getting the school kids involved, and they put all of that on the website, so I don't have to go into it. You can read it, and they're maintaining some stuff at Samuel Smith House too. And they're more than willing to talk to people, to talk.
I've had her. She did a Zoom guest speaker at the high school for me.
Yeah, and they're evangelists for this program, and it's very impressive. So they've already started to work on the turnaround, the roundabout that's behind the middle school. Or behind the library, actually, over by what used to be, I think it's Riverside Lumber now, used to be UBS.
Mhm.
And they seem to be very well versed in what's required. It takes 3 years to get these things going. And they've worked with parking recs to make sure that they're not concerned about any maintenance issues, that they're willing to do all the maintenance. Because what they're asking for with this grant is to get the mower machines that can do the, once a year, all these things need to be mowed. And they're more than willing to do all of that plus roadside stuff. And it's very cute. They wrote it up. Whoever wrote it has a knack for writing stuff that's very catchy. So I thought it was very well done. So that's going to be up until July 17th, and hopefully they'll get half the money, and then the other money will be matched.
Penny,
So
have they identified enough locations throughout the city that we actually have pathways, or is it more of, you know, splotch here and a splotch there?
Yes and no. Their first approach was to go to every single private landowner that would deal with them and ask them and instruct them, or however much the homeowner was willing to do this. So that was step one. Step two is they're looking for pieces that are owned by the town, and they have a long list, but they got shot down on a number of them by our current administration, who didn't want anything in town because, quote unquote, they're messy. So they're going around the edges now. They have, as I said, they're going to do that one roundabout, or whatever, island. They've done 2 acres behind the East Lyme Giving Garden. And that's going to be a very large one when it's done, but it's going to take a while to get that whole 2 acres in flowers and that sort of thing. Right now, I was just out there last week. It looks like it's struggling. It's struggling.
Well, it takes like 2 years to actually establish.
2 to 3 years. And and the other thing is that we received to go into the next thing about the pitch pine. We were donated seed, and we seeded all the way around the pitch pine park that's at Oswegatchie. Well, it's actually at Memorial Park. And that's come up great. I think we have better soil because the annual rye came up like lush grass, and then we've got the beginnings of the base part of flowers are just starting to come up. So I think that strip garden is going to come in faster than the whole 2 acres. Takes a little more time. So yes and no. They do have a big grand plan, but you know, they're also nipping off on the edges for what they can do.
Well, and the bigger pollinator pathways program is about getting homeowners. It is about the little pockets.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole branch of the national program, is getting homeowners to plant native pollinators, so you end up building these little stepping stones for all your pollinators.
Oh, okay. Somebody's in the waiting room. Okay, I don't know who this is. 739. This isn't. Maybe this is Dan or Mark. Hello. It's just
somebody by phone, I guess.
Yeah, 739. It's a 739.
It's Roseanne.
Oh, Roseanne. Oh,
hi, Roseanne.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, your
So
phone
sorry,
number.
but I couldn't. I couldn't get the Zoom to work. We could just I had somebody here helping me. We just kept getting symbols. I couldn't get on.
Roseanne, just call me if you have a problem.
Art's now the expert. He has relatives that are helping him. So.
Oh no, I had it done before my daughter came.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Roseanne, we're just finishing up about the pollinator pathway is on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Art did a good rundown of the land purchases for the East Lyme Land Trust, which you're probably aware
Okay.
of.
Penny, I'll do the once over lightly for Roseanne, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Roseanne, Our application for Hathaway, out of 42 proposals, we understand we were right near the very top, if not the top. I'm not surprised because we had a good piece of property.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as you may recall, for the last at least 5 years, the top people have been getting 60% of the value of the property. And we, therefore, this is valued at 1.6 million. So we put in for $1 million. By the way, this property has over 3,500 feet of shoreline on Lake Patagonia. Well, they changed the rules. Pardon me?
Go ahead.
They changed the rules this year and they reduced the maximum amount of money you could get. And we got the maximum, which is $400,000, which leaves us $600,000 short, plus another $600,000. Now we're still going to be able to close on this because we have a private investor who's going to loan us money to at least tie this thing up and get it onto our side. But this creates all kinds of new problems, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this in the near future. But the point is, we got the thing, and there's nothing that says we can't reapply again the following year also. But,
Art, can I,
Okay.
how big a
Anyway.
parcel is it, Art?
pardon me?
How big a parcel is it? I don't think you mentioned.
132 acres.
Thank you.
The total 132 acres and very few very interesting parts on this thing. The forest part of this thing, there's only about 10% of the forests in the town, in the state of Connecticut, that are of this age. This is a well over 100-year-old forest. That means no trees have been cut here. And the trees were young enough to survive the 38 hurricanes. So when you walk through there, you see 2.5-foot diameter oak trees. It's a pretty exciting thing. And there's about 20 acres of inland wetlands that the Deep is very interested in from a migration point of view. So we see money there. And anyway, we're going to have to get together and hustle. So Roseanne, that brings you up to date on that deal.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Penny, did you finish up the?
Yeah, yeah, just the Pitch Pine Park, it was we've gotten the pollinator pathway, was actually a donation from the Wild Ones, which work out of Connecticut College. They give us the seeds and we got it all planted in and it's coming up very nicely. So the park looks really nice now. So that's it.
The next item is discussion of Darrell Pond Forestry Report and Parks and Rec Planning. I can tell you I met with Penny. Have you been involved in this in some way, shape, or form?
Just the survey information.
Okay. I've been involved with Dave Putnam. I didn't get involved in joining any group, but I've talked with him. In fact, I met him up there today and talked about Gary Gosho and I have spent a lot of time there walking around, talking, the layout, trying to keep it as natural as possible. And I'm happy to say that Dave Putnam is absolutely dedicated on doing this thing right, and B, keeping this as natural as it is. All right. So I feel very comfortable with the course he's taking. He is using as a guideline for passive recreation, and he's also using a guideline, the Forester's Report, as to why we should keep early successional forests, when to cut trees, the management of it in the most natural way. So I feel pretty comfortable with the course they're taking. Is that?
Well, the Board of Selectmen got a presentation as well. If not the last meeting, the meeting before. And I was a bit concerned at the magnitude of the project and talking about a parking lot that would accommodate 50 cars, 40, 50 cars. And so I think that the plan right now is to hire, to help Gary Gaisel out a bit at Parks and Rec and have more of a professional planner come in that
Yes.
works with open space and
Yes.
is that kind of the gist of what you got?
Yes, yes.
Art?
I would look, I said, in fact, I talked to David about that, and I would say that to hire somebody that doesn't have an affinity for asphalt parking lots. Number one, and the second affinity should be, let's try to keep this thing as natural as possible. So,
Exactly. And I think of what happened at Cheney Park, which was supposed to be very simple, and the next thing you know is they have to have water there, and the next thing you know they have to have flush toilets.
Oh,
And this was that was supposed to be a very simple, thing with no pavement. It was supposed to have crushed stone with some
That's
shells
right.
mixed in with it to keep it natural.
And we have
So-
a good, we have a good example of hundreds of people use that thing each week. The trail is crowded, and they're all using the facilities that exist, which are almost nothing, if you will. It's the beauty part of it is it's all natural. So I think, Roseanne, we can keep it that way if we stick to our guns.
Well, I think that what we have there has a specific type of person that goes there. So for more individual, recreation compared to having teams come in, have games there, I think it attracts a different clientele.
Yes, and I think David is aware of that. We talked about that. For example, that we've had a lot of discussions about birding people. We talked about, should you leave this early successional forest? And the answer is certainly we should. That draws these mammals to the area. And so there have been good discussions about keeping it natural.
So is there going to be money to hire this outside planner to come in?
Well, David is thinking.
We talked about possibly using some of the stimulus money, but
Yeah.
the board hasn't decided on that yet. You know, it's so hard when we can't have in-person meetings and have a realistic exchange. So the board has had some discussion about that. First Selectman is enthused about it. So, of course, we don't have $1 single yet.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
Actually, it shouldn't cost very much more than almost $1 if we do this thing with some planning.
Well, if you're going to get a professional planner in there, it's going to cost.
But there's almost a caution to that. In fact, I gave to David, I said, no, what we need is a planner who can keep somebody on our side from running crazy. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
We don't
that's
need,
what planners are.
amongst ourselves, we have all the ideas that you need. We need maybe an adjudicator to say, no, you can't have an asphalt, parking lot the size of a football field. We've got to.
Well, this
got it.
planner, I presume, would be working under Putnam, so, planners plan whatever you tell them to plan.
Yep.
They should come in with no ideas of their own.
Well,
So if
when you don't have,
Putnam tells them,
when you don't have any ideas of your own, that's why you hire a planner to give you
well,
some
no,
ideas.
this person's gonna plan whatever Putnam tells them to.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
and do a nice job so that it can be, successful and
We've
against
talked
people.
about, anyway, my conversations have been strictly keeping it the way it is and minimizing the upkeep and the care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. And that's what we want. That's why it was dedicated for open space.
Passively to be used. Yes. And that's exactly the way people have been using it.
Art,
Okay.
quick question, Art.
Pardon me?
Before we move on,
Yeah.
one of the things you were going to do is talk to Gary about where things like the forestry report live.
Yes, it lives on the town's website.
Did it make it?
He told me it did. I mean, I haven't logged on to look at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is
I'll
that,
go log on now.
is that the official residence? I mean, is
Yes.
that a legal
Yes, yes,
residence?
yes, yes.
Okay,
Did we, I guess we had enough discussion on Darrell Pond. We'll move to reports and communications. You know, since I don't go to the town hall, I haven't picked anything else. I haven't picked anything up, but I don't, if it was that important, I just don't have any communications. Let's put it that way.
I was just curious about that. Maybe Roseanne can let us know. Is town hall is not open yet? Will it be open?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is.
It
Okay.
is. If you want to, if you want to meet with an individual, as opposed to just coming in to check on something or to use the records, it'd be a good idea to call ahead and ask for an appointment.
Sure. I was just thinking,
But
yeah, the Niagara River Watershed Committee, I'm on that too. We get some mail there and we haven't probably visited that mailbox.
You can't go
months.
in to get that done.
You can.
Yeah, it's open for that.
Or thank you.
I simply haven't been there. That's, I didn't like to bring that
yeah,
up.
they're everybody's still wearing masks, and most people are doing what I suggested rather than just showing up, unless it's something that's fairly routine. But if you want, you know, to actually meet with somebody, I still advise that you call and ask for an appointment time.
No, I think that's a smart thing to do. Agribusiness, Penny, did you get something from?
Yeah, from Mark, and I'll just read what he sent me because it's fairly lengthy. I'll start from the beginning. I've been working some crazy hours these days, so just in case I'm late or missed the meeting tonight, I'll offer you this ag update. One, we have some new interest in the ag group with 2 women farmers who now regularly attend our meetings and plan on helping out at quote farm day this summer. He doesn't name who these women are, but we'll find out. 2, farm day is set for Saturday, July 17th from 10 to 3 at the Samuel Smith Farmstead. We are planning on having oxen, horses, sheep, goats, chickens, and possibly someone with alpaca wool. The event will showcase just what it takes to keep animals and how life revolved around not just getting food for oneself, but food for animals as well. 3, the Zoning Commission recently approved a special permit for livestock in the back lot on Cardinal Drive, about 15 acres. The ag group supported this endeavor. And 4, the Giving Garden, the East Lyme Giving Garden, which began with the ag group, has started a new fundraising campaign, which will be buoyed by their 501 nonprofit status. I assume this is a Sustainable Connecticut, but I have not been informed about this at all, so I can't add that. By the way, Fran, I'll forward this to
Yeah,
you
that's a good idea.
so you don't have to get all of this.
Right.
Okay.
This means larger corporate donors will be likely to send substantial donations. A volunteer workday took place that was very successful with many participants. And there's another this weekend, and it says free to elaborate since you were there. Yes, Ray and I went last Saturday. They had, I'm very impressed. They had so many people that really, the person who runs this has to be like an army sergeant. They had a whole bunch of teenagers from the Lions, which I didn't even know the Lions had teenagers. They planted potatoes. Then they had some brownies, little girls. They planted carrots, or attempted to anyway. They needed a lot of help. And then another person had that, I'm not sure what they call it. So it's very small flamethrower and was flaming weeds and stuff around, which was, I enjoyed watching him do that. Ray and I filled sandbags to hold down the cover crop, the covers they put over the crop. So we had the non-technical jobs, but they have a lot of stuff going on, and there's going to every week they're gonna have more volunteers showing up. So it's really coming along. It's very impressive. They have all the thing whole fenced. They've got a whole watering system, and the only problem is that their well is only something like 18 feet, so they're going to run out of water, and they're talking to the town about what they're going to do to make, I don't know, work it out somehow. And they have a system that automatically waters and automatically fertilizes with the water, which I thought was very sophisticated. And it's all wireless. They can do this from their house. So anyway, that's the, oh yeah, and the last thing he said is the pollinator pathways has started seeding in a couple of spots, but we already went into that, so we already know that. So that's his report. And Fran, I will forward that to you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Chairman's report. This is a problem I want to report on that I'm working on it for the land trust and for the commission, but I had to do the work before I could get it to a point where I could present it. And the problem is, not unique to us at all, but the Goodwin Trail is a good representative model, and that is motorcyclists just wrecking the trail along the Goodwin Trail and also along the Carlson Trail, which goes from Whistletown Road into the Goodwin Trail. One Sunday last year, I counted 12 dirt motorcycles roaring down through the thing, tearing the hell out of everything. So I started to think, well, how could we get some control? By the way, state of Connecticut has that problem. This is not unique to us at all. So what I did was I went around and I looked at signs that people have. Ones we had were basically no trespassing, no motor vehicles, and that's it. And I went to Rocky Neck, and they have no signs. Then I went to Bluff Point. They had no signs saying you can't ride a motorcycle there. But you can't, somebody says you can't, but there's no signage. And then I went to Haley Farm, and what they have is the state statute on a board. And I thought, well, now that's really going to inform people with the state statute number. And I went to a couple of other places, and basically it was no trespassing or no motor vehicles. And I thought, how in the world, the big gap here is this. Even though this is an 18-year-old or maybe a 38-year-old with an 18-year-old attitude, we haven't told them why. Why am I bothered by this? Why am I trying to get them to not go on there and raise Cain with it? So I thought about that for a long time, and I talked with people, and I worked with, I know the manager of the Yale property, and he has the problem in spades there. In the land trust, we have a commercial artist available to us, and we're worried about land trust land. What I ended up doing was, I went out and looked at what motorcycles do, and basically, they overpower the footpath. And I'm not going to use the word trail anymore. Footpath has this more dirt and it's more delicate. And what I ended up doing was creating some signage, by the way, which I found out that the 4-inch signs that you could put down on the 4-inch sign, if you read this, you win $1 million, and nobody would stop, because I watch some of these people, they just go by, it doesn't make any difference. So I've created some signs, 2 of them, one with a motorcycle, dirt bike on, and one with an ATV. By the way, if I hold this up, can you see this?
Yes.
It's pretty obvious.
Are the words backwards?
No.
Okay, good. Well, you get an idea. That's the whole sign, and I'll read what this says. And in the top it says, not allowed, and you see you have the silhouette of the dirt bike, and notice all the stuff coming up from the rear wheel. And what this sign says, you destroyed the footpath by dislodging soil and stone, leading to footpath erosion, which is difficult to walk on and costly to repair, period. Below that, please, no motorized vehicles on footpath. Below that, it says not allowed, state statute section 23-4-1, trails and roads, need written permission on public or private land. Now, every one of those words, we worked this to see if we have the least possible words to get across the maximum message, all right? And and this is what we come up with. Now, I carry this a little bit further. I talked to the chief of police in town and said, and I was doing this, A as a citizen, B as land trust, and C as our commission. I wanted to get talking for all three. And I talked with him about it. He understands it. He said, Art, by the time we get the phone call, by the time we get there, that everybody's gone. I said, but I understand that. What you can do, though, is you could use trail cameras. Then you show me the picture. Then we could find out who these people are and contact them and tell them that this is not legal. So anyway, and then when I went to bring this picture again, I talked with the man who runs the Rocky Neck State Park and the Niantic State Forest. I talked with him over the years. And I showed him the sign. And I said, I know you have these problems here. What do you think of this? I said, and I'm coming from the point of, this is totally different. I'm telling you why it's not allowed. He looked at it and he said, you can put that in the forest, which I thought was a major breakthrough. So now to carry it one step further, how are we going to do this? Well, I'm in contact with a Boy Scout troop in Waterford. They called me, and out of it came 3 new Eagle Scout projects for the town. And one of the Eagle Scout projects will to put this signage around the Darrell Pond Trail, State Forests, Yale property. By the way, the other 2 Eagle Scout projects will be put more benches on the Goodwin Trail and build out the overnight backpacking campsite that we have on Darrell Pond, which will have a picnic table and a shelter over the top. But anyway, I haven't gone anywhere with this until I wanted to do all the background stuff and discuss with all of you what I come up with and get your opinions on this thing. So,
Art, can you find out what the approximate cost would be for the trail cameras and how many we would need?
yes.
Because we might be able to use stimulus money for that, for protection of outer,
It's been
you
quite
know,
interesting.
exercise areas.
Yes. Anyway, I've been very pleased with the response. Nobody has thrown up their hands and said, no, it can't be done. The officialdom that I've talked to, which have been private landowners and the police, they've all been very cooperative. Yes, we can do that. By the way,
I think that would be good. We're going to start prioritizing requests pretty soon. We've been a little bit of a standstill. Probably the rest of the commission doesn't know, but Mr. Nickerson's father-in-law passed away in Florida.
Mhm.
So it's been, he's been back and forth, but we canceled the last Board of Selectmen meeting. So I will bring this up at the next meeting. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, one of the, we have very few restrictions on how we can use the money. One is we cannot use it to pay down taxes. Two, we cannot use it to reimburse individuals. And I think that they're still working on some of the other restrictions that are going to be in place. So we haven't gotten a dollar yet, but we want to be ready to go when that money is released. So I think that this would qualify. And if I just had a general idea of, I have no idea what an individual trail camera costs. And then roughly how many you think we'd need?
Yeah,
And
it's not that much. They're in the latest, what's that? What's the Wildlife Quarterly magazine from Deep?
Called Wildlife.
Yeah, I guess it is Wildlife. They talked about their extensive use of trail cameras. In fact, they count the number of fishermen now.
I was going to say that if you're going to put trail cameras up, you can get a whole lot of good information about who's using the trails, like all of the wildlife.
Exactly. In fact,
and people or whatever, you know,
that's a pretty well established thing. But what in principle, does everybody agree with this thing that I created?
The signage.
Yes, before you mentioned it, I was even thinking about the possibility of trail cameras. So I'm when you began to talk about it. So I think that we could get money for it.
Art, with respect to your sign, it's good for what it does, and you need it, but you need it at the points of entry. When they're riding their bike, they're not reading words. What you could do is do the classic round with a bar across it, motorcycle.
Forget it. That doesn't do a thing. They're out there.
Well,
this is at the point of entry, and it's 18 inches this way and 22 inches this way.
Right, and that's where it belongs, and that's about the right size. They'll read that.
Well, even if they don't read it, you've lost the legal argument that I didn't see the sign.
Right.
Okay?
Well, and I was thinking though that if you put the no motorcycle thing on the trails themselves, they have trouble arguing, well, I came in somewhere else.
Well, then it'll be, what I will do is go back and find out where they came in. Anyway.
Yeah, you see my point.
It's a good point. I mean, but.
And the other thing is, trail cameras, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. I have one. I paid about $150 for it, and I've seen coyotes in my yard. I've seen a lot of me going back and forth at the barn. I forgot to cover the damn thing, so I got a lot of pictures of me. But anyway, it's an easy problem to solve. One interesting thing that occurred: we wouldn't put this on. That's a good example of this. The Goodwin Trail going from Grassy Hill to Holmes Road. That's actually a forest road for fire trucks or cars. So you wouldn't put this sign there. Right. But wherever there was and that's why the word footpath is used, because some trails are, the Mohawk Trail, that's asphalt, you know. So anyway, there's a bunch of, the psychology I think is well covered. Anyway, that's what I did. Do you all agree with that?
Yes.
I like it. Okay, that's good. Harvey, you'll get more intimate with this now. Okay. Roseanne, you're the ex officio person now.
Yes, I don't have much beyond that. We're going through requests for use of the stimulus money. Of course, two of the immediate criteria are to assist local businesses that have been impacted. So we have going to meet with the person who's the chair of Niantic Main Street and a couple of the other committee members and get more specific information about what their needs are. So that's one priority. We're also looking at infrastructure.
Could I add?
We're looking at
talking to Main Street folks. I've been struggling to try to get a complete streets program And
I was waiting to interject to say the
Yeah.
same thing. Isn't this the
If-
perfect time to get in
Yeah.
there?
could you throw that idea out in that discussion with the?
I missed what the idea was.
It's the Complete Streets program. It's a national thing where the streets are made accessible to not only just cars or parked cars, but also pedestrians and bicyclists.
Yes, we have that on the list, sidewalk improvements and extensions for some of the areas that aren't currently covered. We talked about trying to get bike lanes clearly marked, but we have to work with the state on that because, of course, our two major roads are state roads,
Right.
so we don't have full control over those.
Yeah.
So sidewalks on the infrastructure. Of course, our water and sewer system is really aging. We're getting a lot of cracks and piping and a lot of calls for repairs. So improvements to existing infrastructure, that's an acceptable use of the money. And by the
Also-
way, when I say Niantic Main Street, they also cover Flanders. I've suggested that they might want to change the name so that people don't feel that we're focusing just on Niantic and not including the Flanders section.
And you know, the Sustainable Connecticut program, even their website has a lot of nice links and webinars on the Complete Street program. And in fact, that ties in all that infrastructure redesign and when you're looking at the layout of town and stuff, and I'm assuming it's gonna be future money for it. So there might be some worth looking at some of those webinars just to kind of, as part of the planning. Yes, Penny?
Okay.
Yes, yep. And that's the thing is that I realize that a lot of this has to be piecemeal, especially when you're dealing with the state, but the state has an entire pedestrian bicyclist plan that covers our town. So, you know, it's not like at least somebody in Hartford hasn't spent a lot of time figuring out what would be the, you know, a good way of making, and it's mostly in Niantic. I don't want to leave Flanders out, but you know, Flanders has not been present in this planning scheme, and I'm not sure which businesses. I mean, the businesses in Niantic really have, and if they're going to change it to East Lyme, which is fine, but you're going to have to get some buy-in from somebody in Flanders, and I'm not sure who that
Right.
would be.
Right.
And in the meantime, you know, there's maybe I'm biased, but when I bike around, I can bike around Niantic and I can bike around to Waterford, and it's amazing how much our sister towns have done. Groton, which has no money to do anything, has put in a huge bikeway. You know, it's a two-way street around the Navy base. Now, maybe they got military money to do it, but it's very impressive. And Waterford has done stuff. And when I go to bike around Flanders, I take my life in my hands. You know, it's very
I have
almost impossible.
I have a comment for everybody, actually, just to toss this idea out. I live on Dean Road, which is about 18 feet wide at most. And people walk on it. Actually, people push baby carriages on it, if you can imagine this, okay? What I suggested, and nothing that went nowhere, but I still think it's a very good idea. I would suggest on busy roads like Dean Road, unfortunately is busy, that we paint the white lines 9 feet away from the center yellow line. What you'll see is that white line is about 2 inches from the grass. In some places, the white line disappears. Well, now for the first time, the person who's walking on the road can realize that you're walking on the road, on the car travel part of the road. We don't do that. It seems to me it's just an obvious thing to do to alert people that you're walking where the cars go. Okay?
Yeah, yeah, and there's state roads that are like that. Parts of 156 are almost exactly where there's absolutely no, margin
No,
outside
you
the
know where to ride your bicycle. At least on Dean Road, the white line would disappear and you know to hold your breath, if nothing else.
Well, and the whole point is, and again, signage can only go so far. Ron made it.
But wait a minute, white line on the road will go 100% of the way. You're either
Yeah.
on one side of it or the other side of it.
Well, then there's a thing that you can paint on the road that says share the road.
Yeah. No, a white
All
line.
the motorists
Across
might
the
look
white
at that.
line. You're now sharing the road with.
Yeah, sharing the road, share the road.
Signage, I'm afraid won't work. Okay, any
Okay.
other points?
Somebody's here. Hi, Mark.
Pardon me? Do I
I
have
think
a
we're getting
motion
Mark finally.
to adjourn?
Art, question. Do you
Sure.
want to talk about that thing we talked about, the funding thing?
What,
Remember the adding the referendum thing?
oh, please do, please do. Bring it up.
Well, last meeting, Art asked me to figure out how to get funding for open space back in the budget. And the first comment was, that ain't gonna happen this year. We don't have enough time. B, we may not have enough time to have it done by next year. So I thought about it, and it hit me, what we do have enough time to do, and this would solve a couple of issues. We are all operating on the assumption that the majority of people in East Lyme are willing to pay for open space. If we somehow put a referendum question on the November ballot, are you willing to fund a open space fund and set some minimum amount of, and this is not a picked number, this is just an example of $25 a household or whatever it is we need to do. It goes to the referendum, it's either voted up or down. If it's voted up, it's not part of the budget, it's a separate line item. Or open space use only. The question is, what do you have to do it? Can you do it? What should the number be? And we need a group of people that have knowledge in this area to figure this out. And Art seemed to think that might be a way to go. Now,
That's one
I'm
of
not going to be around to try to lead this. I'm out of here next week. I won't be back until September.
well, hey, and Ron, you and I talked about another idea that I had read somewhere where they had a public water tax. It was something like 15 cents for every 1,000 gallons of public drinking water that you consumed, right? Which is a pretty small number. But then realizing that the public drinking water has to come from a watershed aquifer somewhere. That was another potential way to raise dollars for open space, which is.
Art, one caution on that. I thought about that too. If you do that, then that becomes water and sewers money. And oh, by the way, it's now back in the town budget.
Yeah. Well, we want to separate it. But Ron, let's take these two things and have these for discussion for the next meeting, okay?
Okay,
Now I'm not going to be here, so I'm throwing the idea out.
I'll carry the flag.
Soon,
for you.
I'll join.
I'll carry it.
Can you do what I'm doing and phone in?
Yeah, I could. I just need the phone
Why
number.
do, yeah, it's listed right that when you get the agenda, it's listed at the bottom of the agenda, the number to call. So you'd use the phone number that's there, and then there's two other steps. And that would be better than not having your input at that time. I think it should be an important part of the discussion.
FYI, Mark doesn't have audio, so anything you have to ask him needs to be in the chat.
yeah, but Can he hear us? Are you,
Well, you must be able to hear us. Mark, nod if you can hear us.
Can I hear you?
No.
no, Mark is
Oh,
trying
Mark.
to join us.
I thought we were moving towards getting back to face-to-face meetings in June.
Next month, you
Yeah, you
probably
are.
will.
We're
Yeah.
planning to do that next meeting.
Right. That's why I brought up the idea of I can join if you Zoom, otherwise I won't be there.
Well, if push comes to shove, you and I can have a telephone conversation and we could agree on at least a point that I can bring up. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Roseanne, what do you think of this referendum idea?
Well, I think what would be better, would be if we could attach it to an existing town meeting. It would have to go, I think, I'll have to check, but I think it might have to go to town meeting first. But there are limits as to what you could put on at the time of an election. My suggestion would be, and the special election, of course, costs money. It's about $8,000 for a separate referendum, which kind of defeats our purpose because that's $8,000 we could use. My suggestion would be that at each of the polling places at the fall election, you can sit out in the parking lot or outside of the campaign zone, and you can have a survey there that would generate what people are interested in and how much they're willing to pay. Most people would stop. If you had to sign up, most people would stop and take the questionnaire and maybe even fill it out right there if it wasn't very cumbersome. Then we could talk about when we get the results, and we had maybe a certain percentage of the population, we could ask for a special town meeting for that topic. A special town meeting doesn't cost any money. That's my thinking about a special referendum. Is the last one that we had, I know it was over $8,000. So I don't think that's the way to go. There are certain things that you can add on to a regular election, but I'd have to get that clarified because I know there are limits.
Okay.
But this is still early in the game, so I will check and see if it's possible, if we might be able to have that at the fall elections. And if not, then my suggestion, as I said, is at each of the polling places, we have a table set up, outside the legal limit. And we could also get an advance article in the newspaper saying that these surveys would be available at each of the polling places. And we could have an address put on there if people didn't want to fill it out right then, and they could mail it back, or
Actually, you could also just have computers set up with the online surveys that people could do right there and complete them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let's
Then we've got some ammunition to go forward with.
we'll discuss this in more detail. Okay.
Yeah. Get your WizKid student, Laura, to write the program.
You don't have to write a program, they're already written.
Oh, okay.
There's survey apps everywhere.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Oh, Dawn, okay.
I'll second it.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi, Mark. Bye, Mark.
Bye.
Yeah, Mark. Oh, now we can hear him.
Now we
Now you
can
can
hear
hear
it.
Did you give
Thank
my
you,
report,
Penny.
Penny?
Yeah, I did, and I forwarded it to Fran. It'll be put right in the minutes as is. So you
All right.
were heard from in absentia.
Nevertheless, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
By the way, the pollinators got online. They went live this afternoon.
Oh, good.
Sent me a message, so you can go on the thing and see them if you want to.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.